Now in this video, we are going to see a demo of identifiers. That is how you can store some data item inside some variables or identifier. So here is the Python interpreter. Well, if you want to go to full screen mode or in a new tab, if you want to work for your program, that is possible by clicking the spin out icon, and it will open a new Python editor for you in a new Google Chrome tab. So let me click on this and let's start working in here. So let's try to see some demo of identifier now. So here, let's say I have a identifier or variable named var, that is var. Now first, let us try to assign 10 inside. So 10 is an integer. So let us see first whether the program is compiled correctly or it give me some kind of error. So let's run it. As you can see, it does not throw me any error in the shell. Now, so it is legal to use like a name var, then assigning an integer in it. Now let us try to print out what type did Python assign for variable var. So let us do like this. So print, and I want to check the type of variable var. So if I do this, I can see that Python has assigned a class int for this var because var have taken as an integer as an input. So this is the meaning of dynamically typing. So although you did not specify anywhere in your program that var is of type integer or something like that, Python interpreter automatically figured out what is the type of the variable var and assigned it accordingly. So if you already have some knowledge of C++ or Java, then you may find it little bit weird, because in C++ or Java, those are called strongly typed language. There you have to explicitly specify the type of the variable in this way, like int, var, and then assign the values, something like this. But in Python, you do not need to do that. Just start working with your variable and it will automatically assign some value to it. Now let us say I want to assign some kind of floating point number to this variable. So let's say this is var equals, instead of 10, let's say I want some kind of floating point number inside, that is which has some decimal points. So let's say 8.4323, some random numbers with decimal point. Now if I check the value of this type, if I want to check the type of this var variable like this, I will see that Python automatically assign type float for this variable. So first time when var was used with an integer number, Python assigned an integer for it. Next, second time when the value of variable have been changed to a floating point number, as you can see, Python automatically changed it to float. Now this entire thing, like changing of data type and all these things from integer to float and everything, that happened during the runtime. Although you did not specify the type of the data item like int, float, different times, based on their current value, Python is basically changing it during the runtime. For example, from int to float. This is the essence of dynamic typing or runtime typing of data item. It is not specified during the compilation or during the writing of the code, but It is automatically decided based on the current value inside the identifier by in the Python program execution time or runtime. And not only the numeric value, you can decide, you can choose to store some type of data like let's say a string, let's say a single character A or something like that. And now if I just print its type, so like this, you will see that Python automatically changed it to type str, which stands for string. Next, now here in string, whenever you want to create a string variable, you can either enclose it inside a single quotation symbol like this, or you can utilize a double quotation symbol also, just like this. There is no difference between a single quotation and double quotation in Python. So as you can see, it is still a string data type. And not only one single character, you can type an entire string also. For example, let's say I love Python. This is an entire sentence or a full text. For that also, Python assigned it as a string. So this is how you can utilize a string in Python. Now, not only string, let us check an example of Boolean, like only true or false, something like this. So Python has keywords called true, and also it has a keyword called false that you can utilize to store some true or false or 0 or 1, like switch on and off, to represent these things like this. So if you want to print the type of it, then you will see that, well, it has automatically changed the type of var from string str to bool. So this is how you can use identifiers or variables in Python. Now, well, one suggestion. So although Python allows to change the data types from one type to another type, like integer to floating point number to text to boolean during the execution time of the program, I really do not recommend to do that. So just try to utilize a different variable name all the time whenever you are initializing some different data item. For example, let's say I'm using var int or something like this. Then let's say I'm using var float. Then for string variable, let's say I'm using var string. Then for boolean, let's say I'm writing var bool or something like that. And accordingly, I am changing the type in here. So var int, var float, var string, something like this. And now if I just run it, well, it has thrown an error because I have used the name var here to check the type, but I do not have anything called var anymore. It has been changed to var bool. So let me just change it to var bool and let us run it, and you will see that everything is running fine. So the learning is Python automatically assign the data type to the variable in the execution time, and you can change it at any point of time in your Python program or Python code. However, it is not very much recommended to change the type very frequently just like this. So always use some kind of variable name, different variable name, to initialize different data item. And well, another recommendation at this point, whenever you will use some kind of variable name, try to give it some meaningful name which works in your programming context. For example, let's say you want to represent the age of a student. So instead of writing just x equals age 20 or something like that, instead of writing just like x, which is valid as it is not throwing any error as you can see, but do it like age of student, something like this. So this is all about the identifiers. Now in the next video we are going to learn about some naming rules of the identifier.